This is my 2016 R1200GSA. I'm making this video because I went online and I couldn't find a video to show what I did. This is, let's see if I can focus, the drive shaft that I just changed on it. I can only assume this problem came from the previous owner power washing it, because I picked up a vibration. I took the wheels off to have the balance checked, and while the wheels were off, I dropped the final drive, and the drive shaft tube was full of water. And as you can see, it's pretty rusty, and you can, I don't know if you can see it, but you can see there's a line right there where that's still paint, and this from here down is all rust. And unfortunately, the bike is filthy, but it's 30 degrees outside and it's too cold to, was too cold to wash it. This job, there are some relevant videos. I found that the older ones are the same. I was told there was a clip right up in here that holds the drive shaft on. There wasn't. How hard this is going to be is really going to depend on how easy the drive shaft comes off the transmission spline. If it would have came right off, it would have been pretty easy to do. You know, you have to remove your ABS sensors. There's plenty of videos online to show this. ABS sensor, the brake caliper. I like to use zip ties. Here's a perfect point to hang the brake caliper from, right there, off a zip tie. Right now, everything is loosely assembled. Because everything was so dirty, I got the drive shaft in and kept it pretty clean, but everything else is loosely assembled. I got to take it back apart, clean those bolts and everything up, and Loctite them and torque them down. The biggest issue is when I couldn't get the drive shaft off, I didn't know if it was binding right here, because the shaft comes out this way and the drive shaft has to go down, or if it was just stuck on the splines. So I unbolted the shock from the point right down here, and it has proven to be a major pain to get back in. If I was doing this again, I would unbolt the shock from up here at that shock bolt and leave it attached down here. The jack is under here. It would stay up, but the jack was under here because I had jacked up the final drive to try to make the line straight between the transmission output shaft. I had all these straps on here because I was a little nervous about flipping the bike over while I was trying to jack it up. And then I got even more nervous and I just disconnected the shock, which was probably smarter than trying to strap the side of the bike down. To get the drive shaft off was quite difficult on this. Mostly, I'm sure, because everything was all rusted up. This boot comes off, and you're supposed to pry from the inside of the drive shaft, as you can. So, no, you can't really see. But on this end, that hole goes clear through, and you're supposed to be able to pry through there. Let's double check that. Yeah, it goes clear through, and you're supposed to be able to pry between the U-joint on the end of the shaft and pry it out. I could not get it out. I ended up taking a strap and wrapping it through the yoke right here at the final drive, and taking and wrapping the other end around a 3-pound hammer and just kind of yanking it and using the momentum of the 3-pound hammer to give it a little yank. It was going pretty good. My suggestion to anybody in the future is loosen up this boot, spray it with some kind of penetrating oil right off the bat. If you're having to take it out, there's probably been some issue. You probably got water in there or something. So just spray it right away while you're taking everything else apart and let it soak. This little zip tie here, this is zip tied right in the front. I don't know if you can see it, but this zip tie was quite a bit of work to get back on. I took the zip tie and wrapped it around my finger and pulled it across a couple of times until it made a little curl, because there are some wires back there, cables, that you have to get the zip tie around. There's a screw right down here you have to get it past. So I was able to get enough of a curl in it that I could get it down here and grab it with a small hooked pick. If the drive shaft comes off, everything else is pretty easy. You know, I've heard different people say that, actually I was talking to a mechanic who's done quite a few of these, and he said sometimes they don't go on at all. He really has to fight with them. Other times they just slip right on. My guess would be the harder it is to get back on, the better the connection and probably the better off you are. To hook the final drive back up onto the end of the shaft, I took a piece of, this is, you can't see it against the red, but that is weed whacker plastic wire. And you loop it through the drive shaft, and it actually lets you lift it up and manipulate the drive shaft a little bit while you're trying to get the final drive back together. I saw that on a video online. Of course, all the torque specs, if you're going to take it apart, I would assume you have a book and you can look all that up. But how hard this really is really going to depend on how easily you get the drive shaft off. I had to really fight with the drive shaft. Unfortunately, you can't get any heat on it, because if you damage this rubber boot, you're gonna have to put the whole I guess you could get another one back on. Once you get the drive shaft off, you could get another one back on without having to take this off. But this is about 50 bucks. I think this one's about 60, or vice versa if you have to replace them. A new drive shaft from BMW was $1,256. I was lucky enough to find the whole swing arm final drive. It had this arm, has the disc, and the drive shaft online on eBay. $700, $736 with tax and shipping. I popped the drive shaft out of the package, and that will be going back up on eBay, or I think I just might call my local dealer and see if he wants to buy it from me. Dealership gets 4 hours, I believe, to do this service. So depending on your setup, I would make sure you have the day to do it. You want to make sure you drain the oil out of the final drive. I just changed the final drive oil and I didn't want to change it, so I tried to do it without it and made a huge mess. Didn't realize it while I was doing it, but between the gear oil and the carburetor cleaner and everything else, by the time I went in the house, it really penetrated my clothes like nothing I've ever had to deal with before. My wife washed my clothes 3 times and then threw them away. I think it's just from the gear oil, but there's 180 cc's of gear oil that all poured out on the bottom of my lift. So that took some cleanup, and I think just being in here with the propane heater and being closed in, it just really permeated my clothes like never before. But that's the deal. I'm pretty sure it was full of water from power washing it. I've opened it up multiple times since, and I've never found any water in there. Like I said, this all started from a vibration that I was trying to find. And I have seen a video online with a guy who put a drain plug right in here. For some reason, this swing arm or drive shaft tube looks different than the one he used. And there are other videos online that show this on older bikes. I will say this is very similar. And my only thought would be, don't power wash your bike, especially if it's a GS. It's supposed to be dirty. And just as a side note, these are my Wolfman bags that are on my DRZ. I didn't want to go riding with my hard bag, so I threw these under the seat. The strap goes under the seat, and then these bags come with these really nice buckles that go into a loop in their frame, and I just zip tied them on here, and they actually work excellent. I wouldn't want to do a long trip with them. They're not very big, but to go off riding for the day, they're plenty big to hold water, sweatshirt, whatever, a lunch, and they keep everything inside dry. But hopefully this will help somebody. I mean, I really had to wing it when I did this. I would say you need to be a little adventurous when you start this, because you really don't know how hard the drive shaft's going to be to get out. And once you get it all apart, you're kind of committed, because you can't get the wheel back on to move the bike. So make sure this is something you want to commit to before you start. This was filmed in December 2020. Ted Porters is supposed to release a rebuildable drive shaft for this bike in the spring of 2021. I know somebody is rebuilding these drive shafts now, but unfortunately I couldn't get this one rebuilt because the yoke was damaged and you cannot buy the yoke. I guess somebody has found the source for the U-joints, but not the yoke and the other pieces. So hopefully by spring of 2021, this won't be an issue. You can buy a rebuildable drive shaft. And looking at them online, I kind of like, it looks like there's actually some shock absorbing to them, the way they look on Ted Porter's website. But good luck with anybody who tries this. And that's it.